This is the Man Up Podcast, the doctor's guide to men's health. Each week on our podcast, we interview the top specialists of the field on various topics in men's health. You have questions that you are too afraid to ask, we have the answers. This week, our episode is titled Masturbation Myths, Why NoFap is No Good. I'm Dr. Kevin Chu, and I'm joined as always with my co-host, Dr. Justin Dubin. What's up, Justin? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Kev. We're recording this on Sunday night. Tomorrow we'll release the pod, and it's NBA Finals, and I'm pumped, man.
Dude, the first game was great. I thought the first game was great.
So the games for the last series have been horrible. They were just blowouts either way. This was a good game, even though Boston ended up winning by 10, but it was an awesome game. I am all in on the Warriors. I do not want the Celtics to win. What about you?
I completely agree. I mean, I grew up Pittsburgh. We cheered on Kobe in Philadelphia. So, I'm a Lakers fan, and I cannot stand to see them Celtics win. But, we'll see if the Warriors can pull it out. The Celtics got a good team. We'll see.
They have a very good team, but this is one of those things where all my friends are all my college friends are all like from the New England area.
All the Boston fans.
Boston people don't need to win anything anymore. Okay, I don't even care. They
had Tom Brady. They had them all.
I don't want them to win anything. I don't want them to win anything. The Red Sox. Listen. Let's go Warriors. That's all I'm gonna say. I think they need to pull off a win tonight because if they don't, they're in a lot of trouble.
I completely agree. I think no team that's gone 0-2 in there that lost their home games ever won the final. So
you shouldn't win. You don't deserve to win. Honestly, you don't deserve to win.
That's true.
I'm excited, and so we let's get into it though today. Yeah. So this idea of semen retention, masturbation is what we're going to be talking with Dr. Ashley Winter, and it's a really great interview, and we had a lot of fun and learned a lot. But I think this kind of all stems off of this idea of misinformation on social media platforms, right, Kev? It's become a big issue.
Yeah, on a lot of these platforms, there's really no verification of where this information is coming from. You can say what you want to say, and you can spread it out to a lot of people. A couple of weeks ago, both me and Justin, we were out at the annual urological conference, and Justin was able to share a lot. He's done a lot of good pioneer, groundwork on, social media and misinformation. So, Justin was able to share this information in the press release, talk. Justin, you want to share some of the information, like basically what you found?
Yeah, for sure. But I think it's important that our listeners do have some kind of baseline and understanding of why this stuff is important. And, first off, in 2021, 72% of U.S. adults use at least one social media site. That includes 66% of adult men. And this obviously during the pandemic increased a lot. There was, compared to the pre-pandemic numbers, there was a 40 to 70% increase in users using information or seeking information via digital online platforms. And really it's out there now. And a lot of people are going to these social media platforms to get their information. Most people, 71% of people are actually on TikTok. Adults are on.
That's
I'm
crazy.
sorry. I'm not TikTok. Instagram. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow.
71% of adults are on age 17 through 29 are on Instagram, and it's and it has over 1 billion monthly users, and TikTok has over 1 billion monthly users as well. So there's a lot of people using these platforms. And what we did was, because I was worried, and we are all worried because we anecdotally have seen bad things happen to people who follow something that they've read or watched online, is right. We kind of wanted to look at how accurate this information is. So we looked at several men's health topics on TikTok and Instagram, looking at testosterone, erectile dysfunction, male infertility, vasectomy, Peyronie's disease, and semen retention. And we found that overall, all of the data is very, very poor. The quality is poor. A lot of it, the majority, in fact, is not accurate at all. And one of the problems is the people that are giving this information on these platforms are mostly not doctors.
Wow.
By far, these people are not even healthcare providers. Only a small percentage, less than 1/4 of these people are healthcare providers. And
So
yet
what are they? Are
they're
they
giving
just like,
advice. I think they're just, when it comes to semen retention and stuff like that, it's literally just random dudes. And I don't understand. Like, you have guys like talking about it and saying the potential benefits, but you never really see these people who are claiming to practice it. Like, there's no data, there's no true data. They just make these claims. And, it's problematic, right? That
of course.
people, and when it comes to men's health, and this is why it's important, is that guys don't want to talk about these things, right? Like,
Right.
they'd rather go online and figure out and solve a problem by themselves, because that's what
Yeah.
guys do. We don't read the instructions. We don't do these kinds of things
Yeah.
until we mess it up the first time. Unfortunately, when you mess it up the first time, when it comes to your health, that could be more detrimental than you not building, the IKEA furniture correctly. So these are things that you have to be aware of, and can be really problematic. And then that's what we want people to be conscious of. And that's why we created this podcast,
I completely agree. And what's crazy is, with these TikTok videos now, like, we're flipping through these things, and they're like, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. They're really fast, snippets of information that's being sent to you. And that's tough. Like, medicine in health is not something that you can send in these quick things to fully understand it, And
that's a great point.
I think that's why Justin, me and you do this podcast. We try to share this information in an easy fashion, in a way that's easy for our listeners to digest it, and listen when they want to, But there's, it takes a discussion. It's not just, hey, look, 15 seconds, I can tell you everything you need to know about erectile dysfunction. No way. That's
No
just
way,
not possible,
dude. You're right. But this is the reality of the situation, is that, people don't want to read information anymore. They want to watch, or they want to listen to information.
Yeah.
We don't have the capacity or energy anymore to sit down and truly read something. We do have the time to watch things. Or, you're listening to a podcast while you're cooking, while you're driving, while you're doing something else. It's always about being efficient with your time.
Yeah.
And so, it's important that people out there listening to this understand that, so although these platforms are there to create content, it is not their responsibilities to create accurate content. And that's where we come in, right? Like, people go on these platforms because they want to get followers, they want to get, they put their content out there, but they really don't care about, that's a lot of people. Some people do, right? There are healthcare providers, there are doctors on there that do care. But there's a good percentage of people out there who just put out information just to put out information, whether it's accurate or not, or there's other agendas, whether it's money, pushing a product, stuff like that. So you really need to be aware when you're looking online for online and using social media for your health information. And you kind of have to take a step back and say, who is this person? What are they telling me? Why are they telling me this? Do I feel like this is a trusted source? And if I have a question or I'm not sure, what should they do? What should people who are trying to figure out their stuff and they don't know about a source online, what should they do, Kevin?
Well, they should.
It's a read my mind.
They should.
No, it's a read my mind thing. It was like they should go talk with their actual doctors.
Oh, okay. Good point. But
I think bad.
But you put that in a beautiful way, though, right? Like, the things that you listen to, even to us, to me and you. Hey, look, you should probably, do a little Google search. Make sure that we're not just a bunch of people just BSing here. You know what I mean?
It's very true.
Am I a doctor? Are you a doctor? I don't know. But hey, look, that's why the internet's also beautiful, and that you can find information to see that, the sources that you're hearing it from are, more credible, more trustworthy,
I totally agree. I think it's a great point. And, you do have the freedom to do your own research, but there is a point where sometimes, you're out of your realm, and it's okay. Like, I've sent Kevin videos. I'm like, yo, is this real? Like, is this true? Like even it can fool us even.
Yeah.
So it is not that easy to sometimes distinguish real information from fake information.
I mean,
and sometimes it's unintentional.
I mean, when you first, I didn't even know anything about this semen retention, and you sent me this video, and you're like, "Look at this. This is crazy," and I was like, "This is crazy." And then you look at the number of people that have watched it and who I'm assuming agree with it. You're like, "This is insane."
There's it's important for doctors to be aware that this stuff's out there, and that's
Yes.
another reason why we have to be on social media as well.
Right.
Because I guarantee if I wasn't on TikTok, looking at like men's health stuff, I would never
Right.
figured out what semen retention is, because
Right.
doctors don't know about this stuff.
Right.
Unfortunately, well, we know about health things as we talk about masturbation. We talk about those in relation to those things, but sometimes these terms and concepts are more nuanced, and these are
Right.
things that we actually have to evolve with as well. So it's important to bring these things up to your doctor if you're not sure or familiar, and we can at least give you our best understanding of what's going on.
I completely agree, Justin. And we have someone wonderful on that'll be joining us, and able to share the knowledge and all that stuff on a lot of these myths, these masturbation myths, right, Justin?
Oh yeah, we got Dr. Ashley Winter. She's fantastic, and I think it's a great interview. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of laughs and learned a lot of stuff. So we wanted to bring someone on who is a sexual medicine specialist, and we want to welcome Dr. Ashley Winter, who is a board certified urologist practicing in Portland, Oregon. She has completed her fellowship in sexual medicine. And we want to thank you for coming on, Dr. Winter.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's I've known Justin particularly for a really long time, and it's so awesome to be like meeting up with you over this format and talking about some really important topics, or dispelling some really crappy bad information, which is just as important.
Yeah, and I agree, and we're really happy to have you on. But I think we talked about NoFap and semen retention a little bit, but it all is kind of based off of the sexual activity and this masturbation. So before we really get into those concepts, let's just talk about really masturbation in general, because that's what these ideas are kind of based off of. Is there an advantage, or is there an average amount of masturbation for guys that's considered normal? Is there a level that's like too much?
So, I had a little bit hard time trying to find like an exact average for this. I think if you look at population studies, let's say on teenagers, around the age of 14, 15, it's probably like the peak rate of masturbation. So your average like 14, 15-year-old is probably masturbating like, possibly even every day, but at least several times a week. And then as you get older, it's less frequently. And then, probably throughout your lifetime, I'd say the average male maybe is masturbating 1 or 2 times a week. Certainly there are people who do it more. Certainly there are people who do it less. But, when I mention all of this stuff, it's not about what's normal or abnormal. I'm really just commenting on like population averages, right? So, masturbation is normal. It is a part of human behavior for males, females, every gender. And yeah, so a specific number shouldn't really kind of define what's normal or abnormal, but yeah.
On that note, a lot of my patients come up, and one of their favorite questions to ask is there a point, doc, that you can tell me that I am just masturbating too much? Like, is there a way for me to tell?
Yeah.
Right. No, this is important because some people are not sexually active with a partner and they are masturbating and they do have this desire. So it's a great question. I agree.
And, with all behaviors, right, you take an activity that's a positive activity or a fundamentally neutral activity. And when you overdo it, obviously, then it can become bad, right? So, even I think we have to get past the, kind of deeply embedded societal influences that say masturbation can be bad, oftentimes, linked with certain kind of religious backgrounds. and say that this is positive, this is good, this is normal. But certainly, even when it's positive and good and normal, too much of it is bad, right? I mean, if you eat 30 kale smoothies a day, you're probably going to be like, I don't know, having explosive diarrhea, even though kale smoothies are great but
right.
Might just be one.
Yeah. So I think when you talk about any kind of issue similar to that, you really define what's too much is not like a specific number, but is it interfering with your daily activities, your life, and is it causing distress, right? So if it's coming to the point where you're like, getting in a fight with your girlfriend every night because of how much of you're masturbating, I mean, and not like in a way that this person is a super prude and stigmatizing you for it, but like, let's say you missed going to Valentine's dinner because you couldn't put down the porn. Like, I don't know, like, fine, right, that's a problem, right? Like, right. So yeah, I think that should be the main, the main kind of differentiating factor. I don't know if you guys have any specific thoughts on that.
I think for me, when I think of like almost like sexual addiction, addictive personality, exactly what you said, where it's one of these things where does it create conflict in your life? Is it, whether it's personal or in relationships with other people, or does it conflict with your work life as well? And if you can start answering yes to these things, then I think it's something that you have to consider. Masturbation's great, sex is great, and you should enjoy yourself. But there's a threshold, like you said, for anything. And I think of, for me, I always think of people in the same manner of whatever, maybe it's social media addiction, maybe it's something else. Like if you're looking at your phone, you're looking at porn all the time, or you're thinking about masturbating more than you're thinking about something else, maybe you should probably think about talking to someone.
Totally.
And what do you think, Kev?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with both of you guys. Like I think when it's like causing an impedance on, your daily life, like what, if this is solely everything that you're thinking about, then, it might be an issue, so.
Yeah, totally. And it is important, with kind of, as I was alluding to, kind of, deeply embedded societal stigma around masturbation to differentiate, feeling negatively because you have, kind of like an overuse of masturbation versus feeling negatively because you have latent stigma associated with guilt. A normal amount of masturbation, right? So, and that is an important, like if you're, fine, if you're doing your, jerking off 3 times a week and it's not interfering with your life and you're happy and whatever, like don't feel bad about that just because somebody at some point in your life said like, oh, you could, your semen or you're wasting your seed or some like garbage like that because whatever.
Right. Like, no, it's a real thing. People do say that. That's a real thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Man. Yeah. So, I think this next question kind of gets us turning and starting to think about this idea of semen retention and NoFap. Is like, does masturbation actually affect your testosterone levels? Because a lot of the concepts that we get into with semen retention, NoFap, are these claims that it boosts your testosterone levels, your hair gets better, your skin looks better, you're more focused, you're stronger, your muscle mass. Is there any basis for this? So, with starting with masturbation, and then we'll lead into holding off on masturbation.
Yeah, it's a really interesting comment. The idea that having higher testosterone levels leads to better skin, because if you've ever talked to any dermatologist, half of their acne management, particularly in females, has to do with lowering testosterone levels, right? Like medications like spironolactone, oral contraceptive pills, all which lower your bioavailable testosterone. And why do you think teenagers have a ton of zits? It's because like they have these outrageous testosterone levels. So I mean, it's so hilarious to me that like somebody would come out and say something that's categorically false, like, not masturbating raises your testosterone levels, but also that these people have made the leap that having higher testosterone levels from not masturbating gives you better skin. Because if you were having higher testosterone, you might have worse skin. Like, so.
Oh, it's like, true. We give testosterone to patients all day. The questions that we commonly ask: do you have breast development? And do you have any new acne?
Right.
These are common
Right.
questions we ask when we give patients testosterone.
Right, which is, it just undermines so much. The people who are online kind of advocating this stuff are just laden with pseudoscience and, you know, a lack of understanding of human physiology. So, you know, at its core, there's just like layers upon layers of nonsense. So, and it's tough because if you're seeing, you know, 10 million videos on TikTok talking about this benefit,
Right.
it is hard as a layperson to cut through that garbage. And I don't fault people for believing that, because you see it again and again and again. I mean, I've probably tried like weird, you know, TikTok makeup hacks, like, you know, putting a spoon on my face to do my eyeshadow, and it never works. But like, you know, at least that's like something really more basic. But you know, in terms of the question about like masturbation or lack of masturbation raising your testosterone, so I think really interestingly, some of this may actually originate in a misunderstanding of actual medical literature. So there's actually, and I pulled it up, there's actually this paper in World Journal of Urology from 2001. And you can look it up. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but like
I have it up. I read it.
Oh yeah. So and the title is Endocrine Response to Masturbation Induced Orgasm in Healthy Men Following a 3-week sexual abstinence, right? So what does that study show? It showed that when you compared a group of men who were healthy, who hadn't masturbated for 3 weeks, or had abstained entirely for 3 weeks, and ones who hadn't, that after masturbation, after orgasm, that the people who had been abstaining had a higher post-ejaculatory testosterone than the people who had not been abstaining, right? Now, the really key thing is that the blood levels of testosterone in both groups at the start of sexual activity was the same, right? So what people are trying to achieve with abstinence, with not masturbating, is the idea of this idea that your baseline testosterone level goes up from not doing that, right? Like you have a higher baseline serum testosterone, you're going to have like big muscles, and you're going to go to the gym, and you're going to like crush it. And, you know, this study did not show any difference in that level, right? All it showed was a temporary higher level of testosterone post ejaculation in people who had abstained. And that does not correlate to your baseline testosterone levels at all whatsoever. So I mean, it showed something interesting, but then that I believe this is truly the beginning of like a misinformation, you know, just what do you call it? Like an avalanche of you know, like a
yeah.
And it sets off the dominoes,
right.
You know, basically for, you know, making something bigger than, you know, what we're seeing in this paper, just like you said, it's just a transient increase, right? Your level plasma testosterones are still the same, whether you've abstained or not.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. And I think, and then there's also importance to understand the difference between clinical significance and statistical significance. All of these guys, their testosterone levels were normal at, you know, prior to masturbation. It's not like they had like very low testosterone and they were had a level where their level was low, and then it shot up to a clinically significant where they're no longer having levels of low testosterone. I mean, once it's above a threshold, according to our current knowledge of literature, is that, you know, you're good. And that transient difference didn't really mean anything, even though there was a number that said to be significant. So what does it really mean at the end of the day? Exactly what you said.
Probably nothing.
Holding it in didn't do jack.
And here's the irony. Here's the irony, right? Like once those guys who had abstained for 3 weeks ejaculated, then they were in the other group by definition. So the next time after that they masturbated, their post-ejaculatory testosterone level was exactly the same as all the other dudes. You know what I mean? Like it's who cares? I mean, like who cares? It doesn't make a fucking difference. Like, and somebody who doesn't understand physiology misinterpreted this, probably put it in some garbage like magazine, being like, look at this study, guys who didn't jerk off for 3 weeks had higher testosterone levels, and that gets quoted, and that gets quoted, and that gets quoted, and that gets quoted, and you know, here we are 10 years, or is it 21 years after that study. And just think of all the people who have abstained because of like this snowball effect of this insane nonsense.
Listen, those TikTok videos have been viewed over a billion times. This topic has been viewed on TikTok over a billion times.
And they're
I will tell you, like, when I was in fellowship, so this is like 5 years or so ago, I went on a date with a guy I met on an app, and he was going on and on about like how he was practicing abstinence because it was making his testosterone levels go higher. And I'm like, I'm a urologist. I'm in a sexual medicine fellowship. That is not true. And he fought with me, and he did not agree. And I was like, dude, I am like a physician with expertise in this area. That article you read is bogus. And like, it's like this weird like abstinence cult, and he didn't agree with me. And I was like, A, like, B, you're undermining my like professional training, and B, like, I don't want to date some guy who's abstinence only. So I mean, I don't like.
This guy was not selling himself very well. He was not.
I knew, like what is that? Just putting it out there. I'm gonna have great skin, but I'm not gonna have sex with you. Like something a woman doesn't want to hear unless she like it was this weird like reversal of like prudishness or some shit, like where women are usually like, oh, I want to save my flower, and this time the guy's like, I want high testosterone. I'm like, that's stupid. And then he asked me out again, and I was like, absolutely not. So
that's amazing.
So this has been like going on.
It's real, guys. It's real. It's out there.
This was pre-TikTok.
Yeah, maybe this was the first COVID anti-vax people, like the first misinformation path. But all right, so going off of this, because another reason why people are on this NoFap semen retention is this concern where people are convinced if you masturbate a lot, it puts you at increased risk of prostate cancer. And I think we have the data to pretty much shut that down. Right, Ash?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure you guys also have the study on that, which it was in like European Urology. Was that it?
I think it was pretty...
European Urology. It was a great journal. Yeah, and so I think there was initially a study in like JAM, and then they followed up like with 10 years of like follow-up data that was in European Urology, which is a big journal. And I mean, it basically showed that if you masturbate more frequently, you actually had a lower risk of developing prostate cancer. I think there is a caveat here, being that it was related to a lowered risk of low risk disease, right? And not associated with some metric specifically with risk of death from prostate cancer. And the reason I say that is because I think it's so important to not make people think that masturbating is going to cause cancer, but I also think you don't want to get into a situation
it's not going to cure it,
where it's going to cure it, or where people feel terrified, like they have to masturbate every day, right? Like, oh my god, I didn't masturbate today, I'm going to die of cancer. Like kind of all of these
gotta check that to-do list off.
Every day.
I mean, like,
every day.
I know. Like, I mean, I think I was talking to my husband about this once, and he like started freaking out. And he's like, I don't jerk off that much anymore. Like, am I gonna die of prostate cancer? And I'm like, oh god, no. Like, just I think the main point being, like, just don't worry about it. Like, jerk off when you want to jerk off. Don't do it for prostate cancer prevention. And don't not do it for prostate cancer prevention. Just do it when you want to do it.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
So,
that's a great point.
Yeah. I don't know. You guys have any other thoughts on that?
I think exactly what you said. It should be a tool for pleasure and stress relief, and not for a cancer cure or prevention measure. I don't think that there is really any reason for that at all.
I mean, one of the things we haven't talked about is just how some people kind of really stress like other known negative effects of masturbation, such as like old wives' tales of like blindness, hairy palms?
Where are you guys? Are you guys over where? I can't see you guys. I'm just...
Yeah.
Obviously, all of that is incorrect, and masturbation does not cause people to go blind or have sweatier palms or anything of the sort. So, if that was the case, probably 99.9% of the population would be blind. So, like, let's just be honest. Like,
wasn't there a movie? Yeah, there was like one movie like kind of like that, but yeah, it's true. It's true. We would all be in deep trouble, and it would reveal a lot of truths to a lot of people that you wish you didn't really want to know about.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, we kind of talked about, all these potential negative effects, but what about really the benefits of masturbation? We talked about, the prostate cancer thing, and that was a worry, but what are some actual other benefits, if there are any, of masturbating? We're talking about men, but I mean, I'm sure a lot of this applies to women too.
I think in general, when you have to kind of extrapolate from masturbation specifically to, just sexual activity in general, and also, orgasm in general, that, there's increased sense of well-being. There can be stress relief, with relationships, sexual activity obviously leads to closeness. And I also actually always love kind of commenting on the concept of masturbation, even as an aid to relationships, right? So people think of masturbation as something that they do despite their relationship or when they're single, but like if you and one of your partners, you're in a relationship, your partner wants to have sex, maybe you're not in the mood, like mutual masturbation is actually like, or partner masturbation or assisted masturbation is actually like a huge tool, right? So like if I say I'm not in the mood and my husband's like, oh, I'm so horny, right? Instead of me dismissing that, but also me not forcing myself to have sex if I don't want to, like one of the things you could do is be like, okay, like let's put on some porn together, and why don't you like, masturbate and I'll caress you, or like play with your, like spank your butt, or like, whatever. And I really like, right. Masturbation is just really cool, and it can really be elevated, and it doesn't have to be something like just touching yourself for pleasure doesn't have to be something you do out of necessity or lack of additional options. So yeah.
So this leads us to the idea of semen retention and NoFap. It's literally all over TikTok and Instagram. So Ashley, why do you think this has gained so much in popularity?
Honestly, I have no idea. I mean, why has I don't, it's crazy. Also because it's, based on the demographics of TikTok, it's probably younger people. And I could not in my wildest dreams imagine when I was like in high school or college, people being excited to not masturbate. Like that is just so like, like
it's so really true.
Like what the hell is going on? But then again, right, there's like a whole cohort of people who are into like medical urine therapy, which isn't a thing, where they like drink urine and like put urine on their face and like put urine in their eyes, and like no medical benefit of any of that. So honestly, I think all of this just comes down to a world where everything is commoditized through social media influence. And if you could find yourself being the person who has the secret tips that other people don't have, that there's a lot of branding associated with that. And I think, especially when it's kind of this like exciting, salacious, or counterintuitive type of recommendation. So, I think it's probably this snowball effect with misinterpretation of primary sources, snowballing into this, kind of perfect storm of online pseudoscience health gurus. And
yeah, I totally agree with that. But I also think the most concerning thing is, which I kind of alluded to before, is if you ask a lot of doctors about this concept of semen retention and NoFap, literally none of them know what the hell we're talking about. Because the fact is, like, this idea or this concept is not brought up. Like, these guys are just doing their thing. And I think there's this concept of masculinity and kind of like strapping down and fixing your problem yourself without having to go talk to a doctor, without having to, fix these. And then this idea of naturally fixing yourself is like very appealing to a lot of people. And that's worrisome, right? People are doing things that they consider natural or helping themselves based on literally some of these videos that have like 500,000 views. It's like a 17-year-old kid who's not even out of high school talking about the benefits of just him not masturbating, which is crazy. It's like, I'm a doctor, I'm going to tell you this stuff. It's like, I'm going to go listen to this guy who like probably just finished his like AP high school history course, so, I think that's kind of an issue there. But I think this idea of, not talking about it and just following these videos of people who figured it out on their own, maybe I can do the same. And I think that's kind of where we also lie in this problem. So I think it's important for doctors to understand these things, and maybe even the older population, because I see semen coaches. I've seen this on things like crazy apps. Like, yeah, I swear to God, I saw on Clubhouse before I stopped using it, there was a guy who was talking about the benefits. He was charging about $250 a month to coach you on how to perform semen retention. So this stuff is real. People are trying to make money off of
$250 a month, huh?
And they swear by it.
Can I just say,
it's crazy.
If you're 17 and you don't jerk off, you're just going to start having wet dreams. Like, are any of these people admitting that? Yeah. Like, it's is your semen coach gonna prevent you from waking up with like ejaculate in your sheets? Like, honestly, do they even comment on that? Because maybe not when you're 85, but when you're 17, like you if you don't jerk off, it will end up in your sheets anyway. Like, that is how that works. Like, I don't.
Maybe they say that's a benefit. I have no idea. Maybe they're like, oh, that's a benefit. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, no, it's very interesting. So, is there, other than we talked about masturbation, is there any data out there for semen retention of its potential benefits, or this idea of NoFap and stuff like that?
Honestly, I don't. I have not seen any at all. I think like there was that study which really didn't show anything, as we talked about. I think this is one of the concepts we're potentially going to get to, is the question of is there a benefit to kind of retaining semen or not masturbating if you're trying to conceive, right. Which is something that me and my husband are going through. And if you look at the data on that, there's no reduction in sperm quality with frequent ejaculation. In fact, if anything, like daily ejaculation can likely leads to optimal ejaculation. Right. You're probably just getting the freshest sample, mm-hmm. right? And the only thing it really does is lead to a decreased quantity, which makes sense, mm-hmm. right? I mean, you're like, if you ejaculate once after 3 days, then you have 3 days worth of ejaculate. And if you ejaculate every day, then, you're getting like less per time. But, whether or not you ejaculate into your partner once during those 3 days or 3 times in those 3 days, you're not reducing the quality or inhibiting anything. And so if you choose to do that via masturbation, you just have like a net reduction in the amount of sperm you're depositing into your partner. But, that doesn't have to be a barrier to fertility. So, functionally, at least what I'm saying is that in the sphere of fertility, which is one of the most common places where we think about, is there a benefit to kind of like saving it up? They're not really. And in terms of other things, as we talked about, there's really absolutely zero data that not ejaculating would make your skin better, because not ejaculating doesn't do anything. Whatever. So no, there's no data. I'm sure there won't be. And yeah, I mean, have you guys found any legitimate medical studies showing any benefit to any of this?
No.
Kev,
I did a search. I did not. There's a lot of people looking at surveys and stuff, browsing the Reddit forums, but I didn't see any data actually in terms of related to semen retention for it, any support for
Just think about it. Like
I think
if if semen retention led to performance enhancement, like at the Olympics, would they be like, have you jerked off in the last week? If you haven't, that's unfair. That's unfair competitive advantage. You have to ejaculate right now.
Right now.
It would be amazing. I mean, that's amazing. I think a lot of this, though, is there is this, perceived benefit. It's this placebo effect. If someone is like, hey, I'm going to get my life together, I'm going to start working hard because I'm not jerking off every day. Like maybe they just feel better because this placebo effect, right? And it's like, oh, I'm actively investing in myself. Maybe that is the idea here where, it could be anything, but they decided to make it this concept that someone tells them may benefit them. So I think that that's kind of it. To kind of flip it on its head, can it be harmful? We didn't talk about the benefit. We talked about there's no real benefits. Can it be harmful?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know the answer if it's harmful. I think if you're frustrated, I could see that leading to issues, but I don't know if there's legitimate data on that. I mean, people like to make jokes like, somebody's angry because they're not getting laid, would the similarity be like, is somebody, experiencing emotional distress because they're not jerking off? Like, I don't know.
They're edging the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine it's not very good for you. It's not, but.
Yeah. I mean, it can't be fun. I mean, I'll just say
it doesn't sound fun. It definitely doesn't sound fun.
No, and if that's something, like we said, if that's something that gives you pleasure, it gives you a release from your daily stresses, and you're depriving yourself of that, who knows what you may want to do else. Maybe you start eating something like ice. I'm just like spitballing here, but there's other things that people do instead, and maybe that's not as fun or satisfying, and so it's kind of one of those things. Like we don't. It's interesting because semen retention, really, there is no strong data supporting it or harming it, but it really, there's no reason to do it. It's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, and I think certainly if there's a community of people that have gotten into the borderline place where they're doing it too much, or maybe they're watching a lot of porn, and again, porn consumption is also normal. But yeah, if there's a population of people who got to the place where they were doing it hours a day, let's say, which is not the average person, but I do think there's a higher incidence with the wide availability of it, then being able to have a complete out or cold turkey from that, and having a community that supports you and validates the experience of trying to cut that out of your life, probably has a role. But it really should be about not masturbating, but just a community of judicious masturbators. But that doesn't sound sexy. So the community of judicious masturbators is never gonna be a thing. So, but I wish it was. We all support you to jerk off a normal amount.
Yes. The just amount.
Yeah, I jerk off, 3 times a week t-shirt is not gonna probably not buy it. But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Everything in moderation t-shirts, that's kind of where we're
really
at.
life though, right? Everything in moderation.
Totally.
Right?
100%. I mean,
so I'm just gonna recap real quick, just real quick. Look, there's positive benefits to masturbation. A lot of the things that you're hearing about the negatives, such as masturbation affecting testosterone levels, no. Does it increase your risk of prostate cancer? No. And semen retention, there's really no data or anything hard evidence to support it. So Ashley, to finish it off, final thoughts. What are your recommendations for people who are considering NoFap or semen retention?
Don't do it. Because if you go on that date with that girl you thought was hot from the app, she's going to dump your ass. If you tell her that you're doing
at least don't tell her on the first date. Jesus, come on, man.
No.
What a wild move. That's such a wild card.
No,
move.
I mean, there's no health benefit to doing it, and the potential downsides are, jizzing in your sheets and getting dumped, and yeah, don't do it. So that's my takeaway.
Not being stressed.
No, net positive.
Don't not.
So, We are pro-FAP, not no-FAP.
Yeah, we are
I think is a way to say that.
Totally.
Awesome. So we'll wrap it up on that note. I want to thank you, Dr. Ashley Winter, again for coming on. This was really great. We'll definitely have you on for some more fun topics.
Absolutely. Yes.
And plug yourself. Where can people find you?
I mean, the main place you can find me is online, Ashley G. Winter on Twitter. That's also my Instagram handle, although I don't use Instagram very much. But yeah, find me there.
All right, great. And for us, you can find Kevin or I on our personal accounts, but we also have our Man Up podcast website. What's the website, Kevin?
www.themanuppod.com.
That's right. You can find our podcast, all of our episodes there. You can find them also on any podcasting platform, including Spotify and iTunes. Always appreciate you subscribing, downloading, giving us a review, 5 stars and comments. Of course, you can also follow our Man Up Pod on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. That's also always appreciated. For Kevin and Dr. Winter, thanks for listening. Until next time, have a good one, guys.
Thanks for having me. Good night.